Welcome to another episode of the Unpinned Podcast. I am the host, Pinterest manager, and content creator, Fenley, and I can't wait to share everything with you today. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. It's another beautiful Thursday, and of course, I'm out in Hawaii, so I get to say it's beautiful here, but I hope it's beautiful wherever you are. I wanted to go ahead and jump into the second part from the last episode because I did mention in the last episode that even though I get asked that question of who is on Pinterest, the other burning question I get asked is can my business be on Pinterest? So that's why they kind of go hand in hand, but I couldn't go into it in the last episode because I would have taken up a lot of time. So here I am back at it again, and I'm going to go ahead and explain to you the other burning question that I get asked. Can my business be on Pinterest? It is totally a valid question, I'm not going to lie. And really do want to take a deeper dive into the concept of Pinterest and how it can be a great benefit to your business. So let's revisit the whole concept of like what Pinterest is and its purpose. So Pinterest, of course, if you all didn't know, it was originally created for the concept of collecting cool things that you find or like and just to have it all in one place. And whether people want to admit that or not, and this is just a side note, by the way, people love to collect things. Like whether the items are under the same category or they're different, people are into collecting things, whether 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 they're going to admit it or not. Okay? So Pinterest's purpose was to be able to share all those things that you collect or find, and it would just be super easy to share because it was all in one place. Now the creators really did know their stuff because they made the platform super simple and easy, and for the longest time Pinterest was known to be the place for life events. So it was like the greatest example I could think of all time was weddings. Like anytime anybody got proposed to, it they instantly jumped onto Pinterest because they had to plan their wedding. They got their ideas for invitations, their dress, everything. Like it was all on there. And for the longest time, I felt like Pinterest was being undermined because people were just using it to plan out their life events, and that was it, or to inspire their next life event project or party planning stuff. So, um people who actually went from using it to into weddings, I feel like also went into using it for like home decor because of course after the wedding you buy a house, you got to decorate it, furnish it and all that wonderful stuff. So they went on to Pinterest again. And for the longest time nobody really understood the concept of having a business on Pinterest except for if you were within the wedding realm, and that was the only way that you would be able to ultimately really benefit from Pinterest, okay? And on the other hand of things, the whole point about having Pinterest was to of course have a collection of things. And of course when you collect things, nobody wants to lose their stuff, right? Nobody ever wants to lose the things that they save. And they probably do get irritated because sometimes you save things or you save a playlist and sometimes the music gets removed or the item gets removed and then you no longer have it. And with Pinterest, the pin is there forever. So whether that link breaks or not, the pin still remains. You can still see it and you could probably go ahead and find something similar to it now if ever that link breaks and it no longer exists. Now, the purpose of Pinterest today, we're fast forwarding to today, is that it went from being that collection of cool stuff that you find to plan a place of inspiration for your next project, planning, or just anything in general. And Pinterest had recently been more about the future. Like they have been more aware of setting the trends and getting it out there. And one of the bigger that is just one of the bigger eye-opening things about Pinterest is the trends, because you can catch them before they happen or as they start. And as a business owner, it's a really great way to train yourself into this habit of when you go through the seasons of when things start kicking off for certain holidays or certain events that happens within the month. It really does help you to get ahead. Okay. Now, we're going to come down to the whole part about who can be on Pinterest. And I have to say that in general, I have not come across a business that can't be on Pinterest. Okay. Whether they are service or product based, I don't see the limit. And for me, my main concern when any business is considering about jumping on Pinterest is that if you have that inspirational content or message and you have an abundance of it, then you can be on Pinterest. Your content can be anything from your products or services, your blogs, it's just anything. And as long as it is something of value or inspirational that pinners will be definitely interested in, there's no way. Like there's no way you can fail. And as long as it and the other part to me is that as long as they can incorporate it into their lives, because what's the point in them planning if they can't incorporate it right into the reality, is and is that's what makes Pinterest content possible. That's really what it is. And as a as a great thing for you is that if you are on Instagram, I do actually advise some of my business owners to actually convert some of their Instagram posts into pin content. Of course, you want to make tweaks to them to make them pin worthy, but and also within the guidelines of best practices for Pinterest, but it's still considered fresh content because each Instagram post actually has its own individual URL. So it's actually making it a lot easier for you to put out fresh content. So if you're thinking or struggling with that idea of having enough content, there's a great place to start. Don't feel bad about upcycling or recycling or cycling. I don't know. I don't even know what you want to call it. Don't feel bad about upcycling or recycling any kind of content that you create at any point in time in your career. If it's coming from Instagram, if it's coming from Facebook, don't worry about recycling that content into Pinterest because who knows? It might be something that has never been on there, so it's going to be considered fresh content. So don't dock yourself, okay? Um and getting into more about who can be on Pinterest, I I always struggle when people ask me if they can be on Pinterest because like I tell them, it comes down to evaluating how much content you have. And they always ask like why does it matter? And I I have to be honest. When it comes to Pinterest, you get what you put into it. That's basically it. If you only give like 2 blog posts a month, you're only going to get the results from of efforts for like getting 2 blogs a month into there. You know what I'm saying? So, I feel like when you are considering being on Pinterest, even though content is important, can you provide enough of those contents to become pins, and can you remain consistent in your scheduling of your pin content and your pins? Because people will say, okay, I will be doing 3 blog posts a month. And, it sounds really great, but most of the time, people, not because they're inconsistent people or anything like that, but we are all human, guys. So when it comes to people saying that they are going to do 3 blog posts a month, they're going to bang it out, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. There are some times where we may or may not be able to bang out 3 blog posts that month. You know what I'm saying? The reality of things kind of hits us, and sometimes we may not be able to make those kinds of commitments. So be realistic when it comes to providing enough content. You know, you may say, oh, I can provide this, I can provide that, I can provide this, but you also have to consider the amount of time that it takes for you to provide that content. Are you going to be able to consistently be able to give out that kind of content? And if your answer is no, then you need to seriously reevaluate being on Pinterest, because if you can't provide enough content to put out there to actually attract more traffic and redirect it back to your website, then we need to seriously start to consider the following. We need to start seeing how can you show up on Pinterest without that volume of content. And if you're only going to provide a certain volume of content, then that basically means that we need to talk about how we can make it so it's manageable for you. Because the main thing for me is that when it comes to creating content on Pinterest, I want my clients to be consistent, because that's what Pinterest kind of sort of is. It's kind of about being consistent every day, putting out new content of some shape or form. And they may not see immediate traffic results skyrocketing off to the moon, but they may be able to see some actual traction or climb in their results, in their analytics. So if you're thinking about being on Pinterest, and I know I mentioned this number before, if you can bang out 25 pins worth of content per day, then you're going to skyrocket to the moon, honey. You're going to get a lot of impressions. You're going to get a lot of things out there. And this is just putting aside the fact that your 25 pins need to also be pin worthy. So, I mean, being able to put out that number, you should be able to gain a lot of traffic. And like I said, modest growth for me is anywhere between 10 to 15 pins. And having your pins be pin worthy and being displayed in a way that the content can be more effective in the Pinterest market is also very important. And that is just the second component of doing it. So when you're trying to express or share your pin content, so to speak, I did mention that there were 3 different types of pins, that I did go over how to design each and every one of them. But of course, since there are 3 different types of pins, there are 3 different ways of sharing that content. And, that branches out into other creative, clever ways of sharing the content on each one. So I would say, if you are considering on being on Pinterest, be sure that you really decide and you're really set on your marketing strategy, because that is going to also help you determine whether you should be on Pinterest or not. And here's the reason why I'm saying this. It's because if you have no idea why you are creating the content you are creating and who's it for, your marketing strategy is not going to work, because you don't know what direction you want to go. So, to me, yes, you can put out that much content, but if you have no idea who you're making it for, and um like how you're going to get in front of those people, you're probably not going to see the results that you want to see. And that is my wisdom for that section. um So if you could be on Pinterest, what is your greatest benefits? It really depends on your goals as a business owner. It really comes down to the decisions that you make. And if we have to think about what your goals are, if it's website traffic, then we definitely want to talk about getting more blogs on your website, because that blogs are always a direct um, link to your services and your website. So if you want to get more traffic to your website, blogs are going to be the way to do it. If you have a product or service, then of course we're going to have to link all of that stuff back to your website with the pin content that you have. And if your entire goal is to build an email list and drop newsletters every now and again for all the products that you have, because that's how you want to funnel your business, that's totally fine too. We will definitely need to sit down and talk about how we can actually connect your pins to email listings, or even provide like free downloads or templates to get people to sign up for your email listings. So there are different ways of pin content, as you can tell. Like I said, we would have to create freebies or downloads, or if you want me to just redirect them to your website so they pop up, and maybe out of hope that they'll sign up for your newsletter, then that's the other way to do it too. But if you really want that direct traffic going there, then you really got to route it that way. And with Pinterest, it's a one pin click. I've read this one article about click-throughs, like one click-throughs. um she said that the less clicks that it takes for someone to get to what they want, the better. Because if they click one time and they're not getting to where they want, they're probably not even going to bother. So always make sure that your click through ability on each of your pins is always going to go directly to whatever product or service that you have, or whatever that pin content is about. Because if the person is interested in the pin content, then you want to make sure that when they click through, they're going to get the exact content that they are looking for, whether it's a product, service, or blog. Whew. All right. So when it all really does come down to it, it's it's really your decision. It's a decision that only you can make. And all I can say is that your target market exists on Pinterest. I mean, I know I talked about it in the last episode, but if I have to be honest, your target market does exist. And more than likely, when it comes to deciding whether you want to be on Pinterest or not, the best decision maker I can give you is this. And this is like a more than likely thing that will help you decide. Use the search bar in Pinterest. And you're probably going, huh? Why? Why would I want to use the search bar in Pinterest? How is that going to help me decide or make any kind of decision, like this big decision of being on Pinterest? Like, this would take a lot of work. It takes a lot of um and return, like not return on investment, but it will take some investing and a lot of content. So why would I want to use the search bar to determine my decision? This is the ultimate reason why I tell people to do this. I tell them to go to their search bar, and I tell them to choose a word that best describes their niche or product, or even the kind of words that they think their target market will use to search for them. And from there, because the search engine has an autocomplete, once you start typing in that one particular word, people then see the potential for their business content. They can see that potential, and that is the one thing I use to help with people who struggle with this, making a decision of being on Pinterest. It is the biggest decision maker, and it's a game changer. So I believe I am coming to the end of my podcast. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in today. I love speaking with you all, and I hope you like hearing me. I wanted to say a couple of things. So, first off, this month is my birthday month. I am actually having a pin party where it's a power hour where you get to work with me live. Tickets are now available on Eventbrite, and it's called Fenley's Pin Party if you want to go ahead and search it up. I tend to try and keep it in the description below though. And because it's my birthday month, I am offering 32% off your ticket. So early bird tickets right now are $12, and the regular admission one is $18. and 32% off, you're getting about maybe like $5 off, or almost $6 off. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so you would use the code Leprechaun, and of course, I will also put that in the description below. I also have been trying to expand my podcast. So I believe now, I'm pretty sure I am on this Slack. Is it Slacker? I'm still trying to learn the different kind of podcast platforms, you guys. Like, I'm not, like, no joke. Like, I'm still learning. So I believe I am on, let's see, Castbox, Stitcher, and I'm kind of trying to work my way through Google Podcast and Pocket Podcast. But yeah, other than that, I am actually trying to also work on getting Apple Podcasts. But for now, I am on Stitcher, and I'm on Castbox, I'm on Spotify, and I'm on Anchor. So I'm trying to spread out this podcast as much as I can. But again, thank you so much for joining in today. I appreciate you all so much. And until next time, take care. I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I know you learned something, so share it with others. And if you would like to connect with me through social media, all of my links are in the description below, where you can also sign up for my newsletter. You can even message me with all of your questions. I'm always here if you need me. So until next time, keep pinning.